And even though my story is predominantly non-fiction, because it's told through the eyes of a dog, they classify it as fiction. So they even deliberated it. So there's a lot of patience and there's a lot of toing and froing and communication. And you just got to wait and the right time will come. And that's when I knew my book would be published.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creativity Worth Expressing. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today we have a special guest. Our guest today is Danielle Corrie, coming all the way from down under, all the way from Australia. Welcome to the show, Danielle. How are you doing today?
I'm well, Ryan. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great. It's great to have you on the show. And for those who are listening to the audio, I have my Australia cap. I'm flashing my Australia cap. I have my Australia gear for today, just because our guest is from Australia, and I have some close connections in Australia. So everyone in Australia who sees me, who sees us, hi! Shout out to everybody in Australia.
Hi, everyone. Happy Australia Day as well. That was yesterday.
That's right. Today's Australia Day. Welcome to the show, Danielle. It's great to have you on the program. And before we really get started, can you introduce yourself to the audience and also describe your form of creativity?
So I'm Danielle Corrie. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I'm a published author of a book called Teida's Story, Life Through the Eyes of a Dog, which is a dog memoir from my dog Teida's eyes, where she chats about grief and loss, faith, hope, friendship, and love. And it shares good times, bad times, happy times, and sad times. Creativity for me began when I was young. I remember my dad used to tell me stories as a little girl as I was going to sleep, and he'd make up imaginary characters. And where he got the characters from, I'm not sure, but there was a character called Birdie, and there was another one called Tweety, and another one called Squirrel. And would close our eyes as Dad would make up a story with these little three characters and imagine what they were doing. And it could be, birdies climbing a tree because we were like 4 or 5 or that sort of age. And, it could be birdie climbing the tree and would imagine this little bird climbing the tree and imagine, what color is this bird and what does it look like and how does it get on with the squirrel and all this sort of thing. So that's one of my early memories of creativity from my dad. And another thing was like with mum, she's a great gardener and mum also sews, she loves music. And that also came into my play growing up. Also with cooking, mum and dad love cooking. So there's so many different versions of creativity for me growing up. And that's how I developed creativity from my parents, also from the environment. You look outside and you see the sunrise and you think, how did that sun come there? How did God create such a beautiful sun in the sky or, a beautiful rainbow, even the rain falling in the nighttime? There, to me, it is also creativity amongst nature, amongst the flowers that grow. You might see a big red rose and you just imagine and you just appreciate the creativity that's in the environment around me. That's
So
how
let's
I felt creativity.
let's pause right there and just analyze because you were saying you're very young, you were a child at this time, and your father is uh he's influencing your imagination, and then you see your mother in her creative ways of dealing with mother nature, and also your views on nature when you wake up and you see everything. Would you say that as a child, would you ever daydream and make your own stories? Because yes,
I,
your father influenced you, but did you have your own stories as well?
I never thought about stories as in writing, but I used to play with my toys and create scenes with them. You'd create characters. There was 4 children in my family, 2 boys, 2 girls. I was the oldest. So before my sister came up, before my brothers came, you sit with your teddies or your dollies and you'd sit there and you'd pretend to make a cup of tea with one of them and, make different characters with all your toys around you. And that's another way of creativity for me growing up. And I never thought that I could write because at school I was told I couldn't. Creative writing and writing essays was a downfall. I couldn't. I basically got 12 out of 20 for my marks. That was the best. I used to fail creative writing and writing essays, and that sort of stuff. So I never thought I could write anything. But I'd immerse myself in books. I'd immerse myself in stories. I'd immerse myself in the environment and to create my imagination that way.
So, what are some books from your childhood that remain with you to this day?
I delved into books like Wind in the Willows
Mm.
or even Winnie the Pooh, uh, and even Enid Blyton books, who's an author as well. And my sister and I enjoyed a book called The Naughtiest Girl in the School. Because we were going to school at that time, and we both shared that book. Things like The Famous Fives, which was a mystery book, mystery series. So there's all these different books that influenced me in different ways. Today, there's books like Harry Potter that and all about magic and fantasy that influence children. Way back then, there was different genres and different books compared to today. But I
Yeah.
still think this is a main thing that would help children with their imagination and creativity.
How did you end up picking up the pen or typewriter or laptop, whatever? How did you come up with the idea of, even though you didn't get good marks in school, you still were going to continue and push forward with writing a book?
That was many, many, many years later. I had no idea. I, I moved out of home. I even had a phobia of dogs, so I didn't think I'd get a dog in my life. And Teida, my dog, came into my life, and Teida and I connected like no other animal connected with me. We had dogs growing up, we had pets growing up as a child. So I was raised with dogs, goats, ducks, birds, you name it. And there was Teida and I just connected. And what happened was I wanted to share the bond we had with others, to share how a pet can help you through rough and traumatic times and be there for you in good times and bad times, happy times and sad times. And they're non-judgmental. And a good friend of mine passed away, and Teida and I both grieved for that friend of ours. And it was also a healing process because I wanted to share how we went through that grief journey together, Teida and I. And I just thought I'd write a book. I just thought I'd put pen to paper and I'd write this book. It took me 8 years in the end to write and get a
Mhm.
manuscript done, though I did it. And through much persistence and much motivation and encouragement, I ended up writing a manuscript and called it Teida's Story.
So when you first, because it was an 8 year process. When you first conceived the idea of writing the book, did you already know like what the story was gonna be? Like, was it pretty quick for you, or did it take a long time for you to really unfold the story?
It took a long time to unfold the storyline, and the reason is because when you're at school these days, they teach you techniques on how to write. So when I put pen to paper and I was writing a story, and there was a course called Write Your Book in a Weekend, and I thought how wonderful it would be to write my book in a weekend. And so I had this, and I hadn't finished it. It was just draft mode. And the teacher told me I had done everything all about face all upside down. And you need to describe, not tell. So that's a big technique in writing, which means you create a scene. So instead of saying Teida sat on the backyard and ate her bone, you describe a scene and you say, on the lush green grass in the middle of a hot summer's day, there is my dog Teida gnawing into her bone that I've given to her early in the morning. And that gives the reader some imagination and some creative to create a scene in their own mind. And maybe it's with their dog, or maybe it's with their, something that they can relate to. And so I had to basically rewrite my whole book using that technique. And then I went to the facilitator again a few more times afterwards. I had a manuscript, but I wasn't sure if it was at a standard to be published. So I then decided to take it to a friend of mine and asked a friend of mine who's into writing, can you actually look at this and tell me if I need it, if it's worth pursuing anymore? And I said, I needed someone to really critique my work. And that's a big step with writing, is you need someone to really critique it. And if it's not good enough, you need to say, okay, it's not good enough. Or if it's great, you need to say that. Just don't be nice, be truthful. And so he did. He put the red pen through it. He noticed my tenses are out. He noticed I repeated myself. There was parts where I hadn't explained myself fully. And so I went back to the drawing board. But one thing he said was, this has potential. You are a good writer. Keep writing. And that spurred me on even more. So I thought, if he can see that it has potential, I'll just keep writing and taking all his feedback. And I didn't know the process of becoming an author. I didn't know what to do, how to connect to the publishing world or anything. So that's why it took so long. It's not just me writing a book, but the whole process of getting this manuscript. Do I self-publish or do I go to the traditional world and publish? And initially I self-published the book and then decided to publish it to a traditional publisher.
Great. So we really see the challenges that you're going through and also the benefits of having somebody who can critique it and just be truthful and honest instead of maybe like sugarcoating. So
That's right.
great that's a great point that you bring up. Now 8 years is a long time. How were you able to um, stick to the idea that, I'm going to get this published despite the challenges of, 8 years is 8 years.
It is 8 years. Because what I also wrote, my book was In the Eyes of My Dog, Teida. And Teida is a cross Staffordshire red cattle dog, and a red cattle dog is a breed of dog in Australia. So I self-published it, and I didn't know I was going to publish the books. I just knew I wanted to get it out there in the big wide world for people to see. And for me, when you self-publish a book, you knock on people's doors who you think would sell your book in their store, a bookstore, a pet store, whatever you feel would sell your book. And they'll say to me, I want to read it first. And I said, no, you can't read it first. You need to buy it first and then you can read it. And then I say, no, I want to read it. I'm not going to buy it until I read it. And I thought, well, you're just knocking your head against a brick wall. You're not going to get anywhere. I wasn't going to get anywhere. And I put some books on consignment at other stores, and they'd actually say, yes, we'll, pay you X amount of dollars once the books are sold. I noticed books had disappeared off the shelf, and she said, oh, we'll wait till they all sell. Well, the store closed down, she died, and I didn't get my money. So that's the challenge you face when you self-publish books. And I know today you have Amazon and you have all these other online places where you can self-publish books. When I first published Teida Story, I didn't know about all those things now. So, and I found a friend who published a book, and I asked him who his publisher was. He gave me the contacts. And even when you publish a book, the publisher does not always want to publish your book. You've got to make your book stand out
Mm.
compared to other books of similar genres. The publisher I deliberated because they are a non-fiction publisher. And even though my story is predominantly non-fiction, because it's told through the eyes of a dog, they classify it as fiction. So they even deliberated it. So there's a lot of patience and there's a lot of toing and froing and communication. And you just got to wait and the right time will come. And that's when I knew my book would be published.
Awesome. So, it's great to hear that you really stuck it out and you waited and you worked hard and you got your book published. Now, you already mentioned that it's through the eyes of your dog. Can you walk us through what was it like creatively for you to imagine that scenario?
A lot of it, I wouldn't imagine for me is when I wasn't there. So if I go to work and Tita's out in the backyard, I'd imagine, okay, what would you do because I'm not there? When you're with your pet or your dog, in my instance, you're with her, and so you're interacting with. Well, I was interacting with Tita a lot, and so, for example, bath time. You'd know that she's afraid when she. I knew she was afraid getting in the bath, and you'd watch her reaction when she gets in the bath, or you take her for a walk and she smells everything, and
Mhm.
does she bark at the dogs on the other side of the street or doesn't she? And you write little scenarios like that, little antidotes like that. You put it all together, and that's where your book starts from. and then you put in the feelings. So sometimes there'd be feelings like with me, there was a few trials and tribulations. I was made redundant at work, and she was outside wondering where is where is Danny? She's late home from home, and then she was so excited to see you, and she knew something wasn't right. So she was through with me through that process and saying, "Mum, everything will be okay. You can spend your rest of the life with me because you're not going to go to work anymore, and I'll see you more often." So you learn to communicate with your dog, and you learn to know what your pet's trying to tell you. If your energy is the same as your pet's, you actually go in sync with each other.
And can you share with us how was it like when you first laid eyes on Tata?
Sure. As I mentioned, I had a phobia of dogs when I was a child. The reason was I was walking across the road with my sister. We bought the Sunday paper, and this dog just came out of the middle of nowhere, and I was about 9 years old and bit me on the side of my leg. And even though we had dogs growing up, I was frightened of medium to large size dogs, more large size dogs, things like Labradors, Golden Retrievers, Great Danes, those type of dogs. And I overcame my phobia, and many years after that, my house was broken into, and the police said to me, "You need a dog. It would be better for you to have a dog, extra security." And I'm thinking, how was I meant to have a dog? I work long hours. I have no car. If I've got to take her somewhere, I have no car to take her to the vet. And it's not fair on the dog if I'm working all the time and they're home alone. I didn't think that was right. 4 days after, a friend of mine rings me up and says, "Danny, I need to give my dog away. If she doesn't, she'll be put to sleep." And so I rang my friend who's George in the book, and he said, "Bring the dog over. You don't have to take the dog. I'll be over soon." So the dog came over. She went to go around smelling all these different smells in my garden. And then the owner left. And that's how Teida came into my life.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. And how long did you have Tata for?
I had her for over 10 years. She passed away at age 17
That's a long,
after the
that's
book
a
was
that's a good
published.
age. That's a good
She was.
age. Um, so now let's go now to you have the book published. Well, first you worked at it for 8 years, you get it published. Um, do you have a copy of your book with you at the moment?
I do.
Yes, can you walk us through that picture and the cover?
That picture on the cover is decided by the publisher.
Okay.
The reason it's decided by the publisher is because if you put my dog, as I mentioned, I self-publish the book. And when you self-publish a book, you can put any picture you like on your book, and that's Teeta there.
Oh, huh.
Now, when you publish the book, which is this copy here, what happens is the publisher decides the the cover, and they decided to have a generic cover because then it would cater to all the audience throughout the world. If you just put my dog, the reader wouldn't be able to imagine it being their dog in the story.
Mm.
So that's why they put a generic cover on that book. So
Okay.
they allowed me to put Tita inside the book, but not on the outside.
Okay, but still, I mean, you get it published, and so that's the
All
cool
right.
thing. And
So just so that you know, that's not my dog.
yeah, because I saw the picture earlier, and I was thinking, what happened to Tater? Did Tater get bigger, or because I thought it was the same dog at first. I was like, oh, what happened to Tater? Like a
Yeah,
before and after. Uh,
that's it.
yeah. So let's not get into your writing. Now you're very new to writing when you wrote this book, your first book. Um, what were some challenges that you faced besides the publishing? Maybe some challenges that you had to face and challenges that you had to overcome.
In my writing, I had to overcome basically the whole course of write your book in a weekend was a big eye opener for me because it taught me how to write a book or how to write and expand. When I was young and I'd write, you do tertiary education and you have to write, say, essay and say it was 1,000 words. I might get up to 700 words, and then I get my sister to say, get her to say, look, can you expand the rest for me? Because I don't know how to expand it out. With writing a book, there's no word limit. You can just write as much as you want or as small as you want. The publisher will decide, yeah, that's great. When you have the book edited, they will tell you, okay, what about adding this bit to the end of the book or moving things around, reword it. So you really need to make sure the reader understands what you're saying. You need to also, with my writing, I also had to make sure that I hadn't repeated myself because a lot of times because it's such a big piece of writing, I look at it and think, oh, I didn't say that, and I'll type it again, and then someone said, yes, we already said that at chapter 3, and you're up to chapter 15. So, and the structuring of your book, you need to make sure that the chapters all link in together. So, and all the standards of your chapters are similar. So you want to make, if you're writing at a high standard for one chapter, bring your other chapters up to that standard. And make yourself expressive. So that was my challenges. I wanted to express myself through Teida's eyes. Dogs are non-judgmental. If I write the same story in my eyes, people will think, oh, she's judgmental, she's biased. There's a lot of to and fro. When it's from an animal's view, it's very neutral in their opinion. And people understand animals more than humans at times and a lot of people relate to animals. So it doesn't have to be a dog, it could be a bird, it could be cat, anything. And a lot of people may not have a pet, but they do relate to animals. So that's why I thought I'd do it in a dog's view, not my view. And that was the challenge for me, to try and do something different that would get the publisher's eye.
Cool. So thank you so much for sharing. And you have your book out. Do you see yourself making any future books?
I would like to say yes. I would like to, I plan to write more books. I have written other pieces of writing that have been published. I've written a anthropology piece of writing called Easter Traditions that was published. And recently an international magazine approached me, and a story called Dad's Christmas Gift was my piece of writing in that magazine. The piece of writing had to be, it's Christmas time, because it was in their December issue. It was Christmas time, and the theme, anything. So I wrote this 900-word piece of writing called Dad's Christmas Gift. So that
All
was my
right.
recent writing.
Uh,
So I
uh,
wrote short pieces as well.
awesome. It sounds like you're very busy and you're still growing creatively and you're still writing. Now for this part of the podcast, I would like to kind of switch gears a little bit and ask you, are there any current authors, upcoming authors or writers that you suggest we keep an eye out for?
I I I'm sure there's lots and lots of upcoming authors. Everybody's writing. A lot of people are self-publishing at the moment.
Mhm.
So to me, to advise a specific author, I'd actually search your genre that you like to read rather than have a specific author. So if you like fantasy, do a Google search on fantasy and see what comes up, because there's a lot of indie authors, even published authors. Use the social media, use the internet search, and search. I would search through your genres and through the types of books. So some people like small books, some people like hard copy books. Even listen to podcasts like this one that
Mhm.
you're running, Ryan, and get your gauge on the type of books that you'd like to read rather than me telling you specific authors.
Okay, and now this brings me to my final question. Are you ready?
Go.
Okay, my final question is, why is creativity important for you?
Creativity is important for me because it allows me to appreciate everything in life. My mum was an artist and appreciates paintings and murals from when I was young. Should paint our walls with fairies, and it allows me to imagine, allows your imagination to open from a little girl to even now. It allows me to just be me, basically, no matter what it is. It could be the way I dress, it could be the way I walk, it could be the way I talk, what I see. and appreciate life because we are all created by God to come here on this earth. And even animals are created, plants are created. And so it's a big part of life, and we all need to appreciate how we are created and what creativity is around us.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for sharing your work, sharing also your love for nature, your love for dogs. I think that's something beautiful, and I think it's also healing when you add, nature, animals, wildlife, and creativity all into the mix. There's like a healing element to all of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
And where can people find your work?
My book, Teida Story, is print on demand. So go to any bookstore out there, tell them you'd like a copy, and then you'll get a copy from the publisher, which is New Holland Publishers. You can also go to Amazon, places like Amazon have it online as well. So there's online bookstores worldwide that have it, and your local bookstore will have a copy. And if not, they'll be able to get a copy.
And where can people find more information about you?
I have a website, daniellecorrie.com.au. And also, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads. That's how I found Ryan was on Threads. So I'm everywhere. So it's just Danielle Corrie, published author, or even Google Teida Story, and you'll be able to find me and follow me.
All right, Danielle, thank you so much. And really, thank you for sharing all about your book, all about your work, and all about your creative journey today.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me part of your podcast.
And to those in the audience, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to this channel. And if you can, please share it as well so more people can encounter and discover the awesome work by each guest, particularly today's guest, Danielle Corey.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ryan. And just to add at the end, when you do a book with books, put a review up so other people, so wherever you buy your book or whether it's through Goodreads, review it and tell your friends. Even with Ryan's podcast, share that verbally, word of mouth as well. So we can all get out there and share, help each other.
All right, you hear that, audience? So go ahead and do that. And also, I'm gonna be leaving links in the show notes, URLs, so you can go check out. If you didn't catch the links, the websites that Danielle just mentioned earlier, you'll definitely be able to find it in the show notes. And again, thank you all, and thank you, Danielle, for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you.